Kantronics KAM XL TNC or terminal node controller. This video is intended for people who've never used one or people who've never used a TNC. TNC is basically a modem with a bit of software, firmware attached to it, which controls the modem. The firmware has quite a few routines which control the various aspects of the AX25 protocol, the other few aspects of serial connection to the computer and many other things. Anyway, what is AX25? AX25 is a protocol based on the older X25, which is similar, let's say, to TCP/IP. It's a connected protocol. It does have some unconnected routines as well, but is mainly connected, so it requires, if you send something, it requires an acknowledgement. So this is totally opposed to other digital modes hams using HF or VHF, which are unconnected. They don't require an acknowledgement like FT8, RTTY, digital modes. So TNC is mainly used for packet radio, which uses AX25. AX25, as I said, in turn is a connected protocol. It requires a reply with an acknowledgement. It's so-called ARQ mode, in the same family with the Pactor Amtor, the other few protocols. Coming back to the AX25 frame exchange diagram, we can see the connect request, also called the SABM, synchronous asynchronous balanced mode. If you want to learn more about synchronous asynchronous balanced lines, you can search online basically. So we have the SABM, the connect request. We've got the UA, the acknowledgement response, unnumbered frame, and then the information exchange, couple of information frames, an acknowledgement here, 3 more frames, and then an acknowledgement. In AX25, this is also called a virtual circuit. Connected mode is called a virtual circuit. A datagram mode is only when you only exchange unconnected frames or UI frames, which we'll have a look at later on in this video. Okay, so all this frame exchange is also called an HDLC, higher data link control. As you can see in this diagram, X25 is part of the suite of protocols. We've got them all listed here. Amongst them is the PPP protocol, which we've seen in our routers, internet routers at home. So HDLC, X25, and then we've got the AX25. So all these protocols here follow the HDLC, which again is this frame exchange format here. Now the frames look like this diagram on the screen. This is an HDLC general format frame. As you can see, you've got the flag at the beginning, the address in case of AX25, you've got the call sign, possibly the digipeaters, I believe. The data part of the frame controls the actual information, and then the control bits are all explained here. You can pause the video and have a look. This is an information frame, an iframe, which is this one here. The supervisory frame is an RR, REJ, RNR, which these ones here, for example. Unnumbered frames or UI frames are not on this diagram. Possibly the UA. It is an unnumbered frame. I'm not sure what they say. It is a I'm not 100% to be honest with you. I'm not networking professional. This is just information collected as a hobby, as part of the hobby from the internet, basically. So UI frames we'll have a look at later in the video. These are the datagram mode frames The pull and final bits control the frame exchange. The pull bit tells the other station to, in case of AX25, that is expecting more frames. The final bit F is set when there are no frames to be sent. The sequence numbers are the ones seen here as well in this diagram, this 0010. And as you can see, they represent frame numbers and frames expected or frames confirmed to be received by the other station. Right, what else is here? I believe that's pretty much it. As you can see, it's got a CRC and another flag at the end. You can get more information at this address here at the top, tapr.org, AX25. They explain in detail the AX25 frame format. This is just to have a general idea basically about how AX25 works and HDLC. Again, connected mode in AX25 is called virtual circuit here. You can find that name in FlexNet, for example. And unconnected mode, which is not shown here, is called datagram mode, which again is where only UI frames are sent without acknowledgement. AX25 works at the hardware level, so this is how it differentiates from TCP/IP, which works at a higher level. AX25 is not routable unless Netrom is used, which Netrom was developed later and is called layer 3, I believe, AX25 layer 3, which adds a bit of a routing capability to AX25. The connected mode in AX25 is comparable to TCP TCP/IP protocol in respect to the frame exchange, and unconnected mode UI frames only. It's comparable to UDP in TCP/IP, meaning it doesn't require an acknowledgement at this level basically. Anyway, back to Kantronics KAM XL. The back side of the unit looks like this drawing in the manual. You've got the power connector here, the VHF port, or port 2. So this is a port intended to be connected to a VHF rig or UHF. You can use this port for VHF or UHF packet radio. Then we have port 1, which is called the HF port. You can use this for both HF and VHF packet. Other modes this TNC does, which are Pactor, Amtor, GTOR, and RTTY, many other. They are listed in the manual. The ports can work simultaneously, so you can have a rig attached to a VHF rig attached to port 2 and the HF rig attached to port 1. They can both work at the same time. That's in contrast with other TNCs like PACRAD 232 by AEA Timewave, on which you can only use a port at a time basically. PACRAD, you can use either port with VHF or HF. Right, telemetry, that's probably to connect the TNC to a weather station. I've never used them. Auxiliary port, that's to connect the TNC to a GPS unit. I haven't used it yet, but I'm planning to. I bought a little GPS receiver which I'm planning to attach to the AUX port. The console port is to connect the TNC to the computer. Right, so let's have a quick look at the front side. Okay, so we have the left side of the TNC. We see the bar graph. That side shows you information about the HF port. Mail in the middle, it's an LED which turns on and flashes when you have mail in your mailbox. We'll discuss about that later. And the right side, it shows you information about the VHF ports. Okay, so we have the XMIT LED, which shows you the TNC is actually transmitting. The receive LED shows you it normally flashes from time to time, like the one on the right hand side here. It shows you that it's receiving audio. You have to be careful with the levels there. You have to set the levels on the transceiver in such a way that the LED is flashing from time to time, like here, like on the right hand side. Okay, the connected and lock LED. Connected is when you are in HF packet, and the lock is you are using other modes like Pactor Amtor and all the other ones. Status light STA is for HF or VHF packet, and valid VAL valid is for Pactor Amtor and all the other ones. Speed, it shows you the speed in Pactor Amtor, the other ARQ modes. It's got different colors. On the right hand side is similar to the HF port, but you only have the HF packet radio relay LEDs basically. Okay, back to the HF port. Let's have a look at this bar graph once again. Okay, I'm going to turn the HF rig on. You'll see the bar graph lights up. Okay, so when you're in Pactor Amtor, I think it's an FT8 signal, 3.5. Anyway, when you have a two-tone mode like Pactor 1 or RTTY, the bar graph shows you are tuned on the frequency when the left and the right side flash equal levels of intensity. Okay, so I've actually found some sort of diddling RTTY signal. You could see it was tuned on the frequency. The sides of the bar graph light at the same intensity. So cool. That's it basically with the bar graph. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the HF rig now, so those lights won't bother us anymore. So let's go back to sort of no signal. Right, so once we connected the TNC to the computer via serial cable, we have to install a terminal program. I would recommend you IP serial. The name is here on top left. It comes with Outpost PMM. You can find the program here on the on this web page. So once you've downloaded and installed Outpost PMM, you'll find an icon to IP serial on your desktop. Just double click on it, and now we have to set up a connection to the TNC. So we open File, COM port Settings. We choose the COM port. We connected the serial cable to on the computer. Maximum speed, leave 9600. Data bits 8. Parity none. Stop bits 1. You could probably leave RTS CTS on. Just press OK. And now we can press connect. Okay, on a brand new TNC, you'll have to go through the auto board routine. You have to, your terminal has to, no, your TNC has to learn what speed your terminal uses for connection and the other parameters. You press Shift 8. It's all in the manual, in the KAM XL manual. That should get you a command prompt, CMD. Okay, so once we have the command prompt, we can probably, first thing we can do, we can type help. That's a good start, right? Let's squish a bit this image on the right. So we are presented with all the commands this TNC supports. There are quite a few. On a brand new TNC, you'll see less. You can see the maximum number here on mine one, because I have I can't remember exactly, but I believe the interface command is set to. I haven't worked with KAM XL for a while, so I've forgotten a bit the initial setup. Anyway, the next command would be help twice. With this one, you get a whole list of the commands and what they do, basically. So let's go and do that. Okay. There they are. Obviously, this is just to have a quick look at what the command does, but otherwise you can have a look in the manual and see exactly how it's set up and all that. Squash this a bit more here. Okay, so if you scroll up a bit, you can see all the explanations. Well, there's no point in going over. I don't know. Some of the commands I don't know myself what they do exactly. There are modes I've never tried, like G-Tour and stuff like that, and I've no idea. Anyway, the next command you'd probably want its display or disp. You can. It's not shown here, but you'll see in the manual. Every command here does have to be typed in full. You can only type the first few letters, and then the TNC will know which one it is. I'm going to try and show you here. You see here, like con mode, for example, you only have to type CONM and then enter. The TNC will know it's about con mode. Okay, let's go back to TNC. So if I press this display and question mark, it will also give you information about that particular command. Sorry, no, that's wrong. Help disp, maybe. Yes, that's the one. You try to type help or question mark, and then the command, which is this display, right? And there you are, the display command. It will structure most of the commands above, well, about 95%, according to what they relate to. So the async, that's got to do with the serial port between the PC and TNC. Amtor, obviously, is Amtor. ASCII, it's about the ASCII mode. See, special TNC chapters like Control S, Control C, Control V, Control whatever. You'll see a list in a minute. CW is the Morse code. GPS got to do with the GPS unit attached. You can also in APRS you can use some of the GPS commands to attach to insert some objects, APRS objects, which is pretty useful. GT, I think is G-Tool. Second GT, yes it is. ID, that's got to do with the ID of the station, like your call sign and various call signs set in the TNC. We'll have a look for those in a minute. Link, this has got to do with a packet link, TNC to TNC, when you connect to a different with another station. Monitor, that's got to do with whatever packets you monitor you see on the screen, and also information about the frames and the packets, all the acknowledgements and the requests of the AX25 protocol you can see through the monitor command, which is quite useful, especially at the beginning. Net, that's got to do with a node, with a packet node, which is a bit advanced for now. PBBS has got to do with a packet bulletin board system, which is a mailbox basically you can use. People can connect to your TNC to the mailbox and leave messages, read messages. Mailboxes can forward and reverse forward messages between them and stuff like that. PT, that's Pactor. RTTY, you know what's that? What is timing? That's got to do with the timing, right? So that's got to do with the parameters in the AX25 protocol. And extra, well, I wouldn't bother about that. That's got to do with some transmission related parameters. Okay, so let's type this A from async, right? Just type the first letter A. That should give us all the parameters of the serial link between the TNC and the computer. A board, that's the speed. That one I've set up here already. Auto LF, I can't remember now. Backspace on, delete. That's got to do with the terminal itself. Right, yeah, you can find some terminal parameters here, how it affects your what you type, various right, they're not very important. What's the most important here? It's interface, which sets up the interface you work on, which is terminal in this case, and port. Port shows you which port you actually work on present. There are various commands which are port aware. Echo is also important. It shows you the characters you type. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the Amtor and the ASCII setup. So the values you see here, the for each command are the actual values set on the TNC now, which most of them are default. I haven't changed many of them. Okay, especially in this particular section. Maybe the echo and the interface. Well, the port. Yeah, I think it's import to by default when you first start your TNC. Sorry. Okay, so let's go directly to the character section. Okay, so here we have various command shortcuts. Control C is the command shortcut, the keyboard. I'm not sure what else you can use here. You're not going to use much here, so you can always look in the manual and see what they do and how you can use them. ID, that's an important one. Maybe we should have started with this one. Okay, so display ID. This is probably the most important when you set up your call sign. So you just type my call or just my, then M0IPU/3. So that's on port 1. If you want to set up on the HF port, if you want to set up the VHF port as well with sign on a different call sign, you type slash then M0IPU-3. Now the call sign is set to M0IPU/3 on both ports, HF and VHF. You can see some of the commands are port aware. We can see the slash here. Okay, so what else? There's no point in this. It's a tremendous job to go through all these commands. So you can see I've set up here the APRS, I've set up a K node, a simple node. I've set up a Netrom node as well. The unproto, that's an important command. Unproto is set to CQ on both ports. You should probably leave it like that. Proto is used when you initiate an unconnected transmission in packet radio. It is also used in APRS if you use TNC as an APRS DG. These last three have to do with APRS, with UI frames. As you can see, they all start with UI. I might do a video on setting up an APRS DG and objects in with the Kantronics KAM XL. Yeah, no, I'm not sure if I've got time for that. Okay, so as I said, you can always type question mark and the command to see what it does. Okay, so there you are. HID is also got to do with most of it with APRS, and also when you set it up as a DGPeter. Let's go to the next one. Display link. These are all AX25 parameters and few commands which control the transmission. Important here is, well, this is by default level 2. There was a level 1 AX25. This is level 2. Connect. That's the connect command is very important. When you connect to a station, you just type C, then the station call sign, I don't know, L3 FCA/, and it's going to tell me, as you can see here, I'm on port 2. So you can see that's the VHF port, right? So it's transmitting. It's trying to connect on the VHF port because I'm on port 2. Obviously, there's no Y03 FC at the other end, so the connection is going to time out. I'm going to disconnect. Right, Control C. and disconnect. D is disconnect. Okay, so I've got that sorted. Let's squish this thing in here. The bar graph. The bar graph is a command that initiates this the LEDs here. Otherwise, by default it will from the factory the bar graph is switched off. The CD is also important. I can't remember what are the defaults. CD internal external. So this is the carrier detect command. This is how your TNC knows there is a X25 transmission there, a packet or frames, valid frames. If it's set to external, you'll see in the manual, you'll need, which is very unlikely, you'll need a wire from the rig to the TNC, which tells the TNC there is a carrier on the frequency. The internal, I've got it set to internal. This means that the detection is done in the carrier detection is done in the software. So this is probably the best method to use. I'm just gonna come back to these frames here. You can see C, which means it's a connect attempt, and also this 2 here means it's done on port 2 on the VHF port on the KAM XL. Okay, so what next is the well, the DGPeat command. Don't worry about that now. If you set your station as a DGPeater, HBoard controls the link speed. You can see in HF it's set to 300, which is the HF packet speed. VHF is set to 1200, which is the usual speed in VHF packet. Let's say new HF they use 9600. HBoard. Okay, you can change it. Let's say HBoard. Let's try one more. And I said 300, 9600. I'm just gonna. Right. What else? Max frame is important, but you can leave it as default like that. If you've got a poor link on VHF, you can probably change it from 4 to 2 or something like that. This is the maximum amount of frames that are sent at one time. HF, as you can see, is 1. So you only send 1 at a time because the conditions in HF. You don't want to send 5 and then get a request to in case one gets corrupted, your TNC needs to send again the 5 packets or whatever. This is how AX25 works. If you send 5 packets at a time, one is corrupted, you have to resend all 5 again. You can't just send the corrupted one. That's one of the downfalls. It's a very early protocol based in 1970s, I believe. So as you can see, the TNC was trying to transmit something on the HF. I'm just wondering why is that. That was the VHF one, which is okay. These users, this is the number of users that can connect to your TNC at one time. 2 and 2. I'll just leave that. X-Smith level. That's got to do with the calibration routine 40 and 35. Shows in dB as well. dB. This is the audio level that's set on HF and VHF port. You can modify that. See how loud you can make your audio level. In HF, obviously you don't want to hit the ALC, the automatic level control. You have to stay below that, and in VHF we have to set it up so the deviation remains somewhere at around 3.5 kilohertz or less. Modulation percentage I think is 50-70%, which at the 5 kilohertz deviation would be around 2.8, 3.5, something like that. Anyway, if you hit 3.5 should be. I've got a video on deviation levels and stuff like that. YouTube. Okay, let's see what else is there. Oops, I'll hit the display command which shows all the commands and their parameters. The monitor, it's very important, so you can see what sort of frames are being sent and received and stuff like that. The control frames in AX25. And as you can see, I've set all the monitor commands to on. I want to see basically everything that happens with the AX25 link. I don't really like that. The stream is the time format, so I've forgotten to tell you about the date. For daytime, you set up your date. It's all in the manual. You see how the day stream controls the way the date and time are shown on the screen, as you can see here, up here. The triple M, which is month in. Anyway, what else is there? Okay, the monitor that monitors that's the master switch monitor in the packet. So if it's off, the control frames will be shown on the screen. Only what you type and what you receive from the other person. MCON is the monitor of the connected transmissions, connected links, sorry. MCOM, I forgot. Right, so if that is on, yeah, that should be on as well. It shows you the connect command, which is the 7 synchronous asynchronous, can't remember now what it's called. Disconnect, that's the disconnect frame. DM, it's the, you get that when you can't connect to a station, and the UA frames is the acknowledgement frame. You get that when you successfully connect to the other station. It sends you first send the SABM, and the other station sends you a UA frame, and then when you finish all the conversation and you disconnect, you send a disconnect, and then you get a disconnect. Okay, what else? You want to enter your own frame, MX bit. That's a good one. Okay, that one is the reject all the receive frames, and I can't remember the INR how it's called. I have to go for that again. I have to do my homework. It's what else? Timing, yeah, that's important. These are the timings related to AX25 and your transmission, basically. You're not going to be interested in AX delay. These are for connecting through repeaters, which I haven't heard of, to be honest. Check. This is when you type anything. You are connected to a station, so you can in connected mode. You don't type anything, and the other station checks on your link after 10 seconds to see whether you're still there. It sends a frame. And obviously your station still there, acknowledges. If he doesn't receive it, he still send after 10 seconds and so on until it disconnects with there is another one, frac. Well, that's important one. This is the ACK timing. So if you haven't received, in this case it's set to 4 seconds. If you send a frame and it hasn't been acknowledged in 4 seconds, you send it again. These ones, I'm not going to get into persist and all that. It's a lot of explanation. There's a lot of explaining there to do. Slot time as well. TX delay, that's, yes, it's an important one. TX delay is the time between the enter command, when you press enter on your keyboard, and the time the frame actually bursts out of the TNC. This is to give a bit of a time for the PTT circuit to on your rig, basically, which should be, with the modern rig, should be a few milliseconds. 30 milliseconds, it's a good one. If you ever connect this TNC to this handheld radios, you would probably want to set that to 400, 500. It takes a bit of a time there for the PTT and some noise stuff like that before the carrier is clean, before you can send a clean signal. UI dupe and UID weight has got to do with APRS, and as you can see here, I'm not going to go for those now. I need to record a different video with setting up the APRS on this TNC, the DGP and all that. Okay, display extra X. See what that? Yeah, that's again. You're not going to use that. I read about that in the manual. It's not a problem. Okay, so let me clear the screen. Control A, delete. Okay, it's all clear now. There are a few commands which do not show in display commands. The parameters on there. And the status command is not shown there. The status is a very important command. It shows you the disconnected streams, or it shows you what's connected, what's not connected. You can, with the Kantronics KAM XL you can connect to several stations at the same time and link with several stations at the same time. These are also called channels. If I do a status command long L, okay, it's going to show me all the connected and disconnected channels on this TNC. So if I was connected to various few call signs at the same time, they will all show up here. These so-called streams or links, channels, whatever you want to call them. In other words, so you can connect to Y03 FCA, then type Control C and connect to a different station while you stay connected to the other one, and they will all show here basically. So as you can see, channels are from A to J on each port. So this is channel A on port 1, channel B on port 1, and so on. Then we go to port 2, which is the VHF port. You've got a channel A on up to channel J, which is 8 channels, right, altogether. You also have channels on the BBS, which is the bulletin board system. You have 2 channels there. And I also, because I have enabled a node on this TNC, I have the channels allocated to that node there. I believe you can, I'm not sure actually, as I haven't worked with this TNC for some time now. Kind of, we can actually set these channels to a certain number. You can discover that in the manual for me. Okay, so status, you can also type as a shortcut S and L. It will show the same thing. Status long. Status just shows you the kind of, I think it shows you the connected only, but obviously if nobody's connected, it will show just one which is disconnected. There's connect in progress. Right, so status long, it will show stream A, which is first channel 1 on port 2 on the VHF. I'm trying to connect to this station, which is my other call sign basically. Let's try now to connect to several stations at once. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to increase the retry numbers. The retry is 10 now. Retry is the number of times the TNC is trying to connect before disconnects when not getting an answer from the other side. So that's 10 times. I'm going to increase it to 20 to give us more time. 20 is out of range. So great. So retry is 15 now. And users, this is the number of streams to be used by incoming connects. It also affects the outgoing connects as well, I believe. Max users, let me try, that's 10, that's fine, that's the maximum amount of users that can connect. I'm not sure, I think that's actually max users. That's maximum connections allowed. Okay, so we shouldn't have touched the users, that's fine. So, okay, let me try and connect to a station on channel A. Now I'm trying to change the stream with S, vertical bar, the port and the stream number. Okay, so I've changed to stream B now, so I can try and connect to some other station on stream B. And now if I do a status long, you can see these 2 channels are busy trying to connect. I can also try one on HF as vertical bar 1C. And then I'm trying there another station. Okay. You can see there's a connection in progress on stream C. First the HF port, and then a couple of connections attempts on the HF port. You can see the TNCs flashing, the HF and the VHF as well. Okay, so they're going to try 15 times on each connection and then time out, because obviously there's no D station, there's none of them are at the other end. So great. So this is the, I'm going to disconnect, that's disconnected on stream 1C. Disconnect there. If it's, oh, it's already been disconnected. There's one more. Can't remember which one. 2C, I believe. Yeah, they all disconnected now anyway. They've timed out. Oh, it was 2B, sorry. Yeah. Great, so if we do a status check now, you can see they all disconnected. They've all timed out. I think I've managed to disconnect one by myself. Anyway, so you can change streams. You can work with several stations at the same time in connected mode with status, vertical bar, the port, which is 1 or 2, right? So 2 is the VHF, and then the stream letter, let's say C. It's the stream. The C is the active stream. Sorry, we're not connected there. Okay, so if we do a status long, we can see we are on port 2 C stream. That vertical bar, status vertical bar, port number, and then stream. That vertical bar is controlled by a different command, stream SW, and you can see it's a vertical bar in hex is 7C. You can change that if you want. Stream SW 7A, let's say. Let's see what it comes up with. There's no. I have to put the dollar sign. Okay. I'm not sure what. There's no 7A there apparently available. Not sure what other. Okay, we've changed it. I'm not sure FF what in hex what it is. I'll check it now. There's nothing basically. We've got to change that back to whatever it was 7C. Can't remember now. There's a few of them which are valid stream. Okay, so we're back to the vertical bar now. So that was it basically with multiple connections. Oh, that's pretty much it, I think. I'm not sure what else to show you. A lot to do. I mean, it takes hours to explain all the stuff this TNC can do. There's Pactor there. That's it's not very complicated, but there's no time now. Stick to the packet radio. Also wanted to show you some RTTY. I've just remembered, I believe it's CQWW RTTY today. Let me just turn on my HF rig. Okay, RTTY. Okay, so the tones are set for LSB here, right? So I've got to set my rig on LSB. You can change the tones the other way around. It's not a problem, and work on the USB. Just gonna try and that's it. We lock now on the signal. So that's receiving RTTY with KAM XL. You can see the bar graph, the signal is locked on the station there. And there's an exchange given there. Someone is asking for his exchange. Let's see what else is coming up here. Okay. So that's RTTY receiving mode. That's a station from Hungary. Next. Okay, forgot about the unconnected mode in packet radio. So you don't actually connect to a station. Just send frames to everyone, let's say. You don't need to be connected to a particular station, so then anybody can read them, or anybody who's got the monitor on command. I'm not sure whether the UI frames are shown by default. As I said, I haven't worked with this TNC for a lot. I forgot that already, so it's for you to discover that. So if I want to in unconnected mode, let's say, all you have to do is just press K, then enter, and now whatever you type, it goes as an unconnected frame, and it goes to the unproto destination, which in our case was set up to CQ. Right? So if I type that, it tells me that my call sign has sent the frame to the unproto address, which is CQ. If you want to send the thing, if you want to connect to a station, let's say. On port 2, and it's been sent as an UI frame. Okay, so if I type again something, yeah, it will send it again. You can see the light on the TNC on the VHF port. Lights on. I actually went on the air. It doesn't matter. There's nobody on the VHF on that thing. You can even type enter, and it will just send an empty frame to the unproto address. All you have to do to come out of the unconnected mode is just type Control C, basically nothing else. You don't have to type disconnect or anything else. So the unproto was set to CQ on both ports. So if you wanna, this is equivalent to the FEC mode in Amtor or Pactor, right? FEC, you just send unconnected frames. It's like in Pactor or Amtor or other ARQ modes. I believe they all have an AFEC FEC mode where you can transmit without actually being connected to anyone. You just type in CQ or whatever if you are in a conversation with someone where you don't need a connected mode with acknowledgements and all that. So that's it, and it's got an address as well. In case of packet radio, it's got to go somewhere because it's probably to do with the AX25 protocol. It has to have a destination in there. There are certain fields in the frame which have to be. I'm assuming this. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, so on Proto in API, if you ever set up your TNC as an API station, you probably want to do the Unproto, set it to APNKXL or something else, APRS, but APNKXL to identify your type of TNC. Well, I believe that's pretty much it. I don't think I've got any more time now to go through anything else. Maybe the calibrate command. Cal, as I said, cal, you set the tone level, the audio level. You have mark and space. So if you type M, for example, it sends out a mark, which is the low tone. If you type S, it sends a space, is the high tone, the packet 2200 Hertz. The mark is 1200 Hertz. Receive doesn't do much. I've typed R. I don't know. Not sure really how it works. I could never get around this. In KPC3, you get a couple of levels there, the percentages which you have to work with, so you can figure out the audio level coming in. But with this one, I don't know, nothing happens. With T you send a square wave, which is a mark and the space, alternate mark and space basically. B is just random marks and spaces. This is all in VHF. This has got to do with the deviation, setting the deviation, right? So if you want to come out the calibration routine, you just type X and we'll have a reset. If you want to do calibration on port 1 now on the HF, you type port 1, press and enter, do a reset, so the TNC will know you're on port 1. Now you can do the calibrate routine and it shows you on port 1. Now if I type M, for example, it sends a mark. You can see the light there. And also on the bar graph, you see the mark on the left. Now the space, I've typed S, you can see the space on the bar graph, the high tone. Right, I'm gonna come out of this. The mark and space on HF can be set with mark and space commands. Got the mark set to 1400 Hertz, the space to 1600, I believe, yeah. So they are 200 Hertz different. I wanted to show you something strange about tones in KAM XL. They said mark and space command do not affect the packet side of the HF port. But I found out that it does exactly the opposite. So we have mark 1400 Hertz, space 1600 Hertz, right? So if I go into Unproto now and start transmitting, you can see the frequency on the waterfall here. Now, if I change the tones to something different, mark, sorry, that's my phone ringing, mark 1800. Hold on, I have to change the space first. Space to, and then mark 2000. Let's see. Now I'm going on Proto. You can see the frequencies actually have gone up to the mark and space I've just set with the mark and space command, basically. Okay. Now let's change them to something a bit stranger. So we leave the space at 2200 and we change the mark to 800. Let's see. And now I'll go on Proto again. Look at the marks in space, right? One is 800, the other one is 2200, which is really strange. Now, if I want to do VHF, well, 1200 baud packet on port 1, I'll probably have to change the frequencies to mark 1200 space, that's 200, right? And then HB 1200. Okay, so if I go in on Proto, well, I'm in USB now, should be in FM, right? So anyway, things, huh? Okay. Okay, let's do reset. Right. Right, so yeah, let's. Don't really understand that statement in the manual. It's saying mark and space on the HF only affect non-packet modes, right? And then they do affect the packet mode on the HF port. Now, if I go into Pactor, I'm trying control, typing control CT, I'm going to transmit mode. As you can see, the frequencies are around 2.1, 2.3 kilohertz audio frequencies, right? Control CX, I'm coming out of Pactor Amtor now. Control CT, transmit. Amtor is the same. Control CX, I'm coming out of it. Nothing to do with mark and space tones set by the commands mark and space. Right, so, but there is another command which sets the tones on these non-packet modes, which has nothing to do again with mark and space commands. Sets low tones. It's set to off, so the frequencies were around 2100, 2200. Well, it's under 70 hertz. Shift there anyway, controlled by the shift command. Okay, so shift is for non-packet modes, 170, fine. And the non-packet modes are controlled by the low tones command. If I set low tones to on, which are the so-called European modes, tones, sorry, let me try Pactor again. Control CT. You see the low tones. 1250, 1400. Great. Amtor. Control CT. Same. So they have nothing to do with mark and space commands. Control CX to come out of it. Right. So in this case, for HF packet, I have to set HB Hboard 300 on port 1 and leave 1200 on the VHF port. That's fine. Secondly, we have to change the mark and space at 200 Hz difference. So mark, let's say I want a tone of about 1200, the center of the filter, let's say, and the space at 1400. Okay. Now, if I go into HF packet, it should be all fine. 200 Hz difference. Right, there you are. You have a nice signal there. Yeah, so that's the conclusion. Mark and space do affect the packet mode on the HF port, port 1. Oh yes, I forgot the RTTY. RTTY, Control CT. The same with Pactor Amtor. Low tones. Control CX. Come out. The only way to force non-packet modes like Pactor and Amtor to use the tones set by mark and space commands to change the shift command to modem. Right, so shift modem. Right, so low tones are off now, so non-packet modes should go up to 2100, 2200 Hz, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. So if we enter Pactor, for example, and we initiate in a transmission, Control CT, you can see now that Pactor follows the tone set by mark and space commands. Okay, Control CX, Amtor, Control CT. Yeah, good. Obviously, you have to set the mark and space commands in this case when shift is set to modem to 170 Hz difference or 200 Hz I believe for Pactor, but it works with 170 too, so that's not a problem as far as I remember. I'm not an expert in those modes. Anyway, so right, that's pretty much it with non-packet modes and packet versus mark space and shift and low tones. I just want to come back to one more thing, the interface mode. There you can see terminal. Oh yeah, I remember. It's set to new user, right? When you first turn on your TNC, set to new, so you have a very limited set of commands in new user. It's for new users, obviously. You don't want to see the whole bunch of commands on the screen. Now, I wanted to talk to you about KISS mode. In KISS mode, the TNC acts as a modem only. For those who never familiar with TNCs, most of these commands you've seen on the screen now You'll probably find them in a program on your PC. As you can see in the description and the manual, in KISS mode, the information from the PC to the TNC is sent in binary, and the TNC acts as an assembler disassembler for packets. It's just a simple modem. As I said, everything gets done in a program. All these routines, basically, find them in a program on the PC. You'll have to set, or the program can send a set of commands to the TNC to put it into the KISS mode. Host is, there's some programs out there, maybe one or two, which work with in host mode. You'll find more information in the manual. I'm not going to go into details. Okay, so I think I'm going to end up here with this video, with this little tutorial. 73, and all the best.